All right, I'm joined with Emily Letts, Therapeutic Dominatrix and coach. And I'm just going to pass it off to you immediately.
Wow.
So that you
All
can
right.
explain
Yeah, right in there.
what a therapeutic dominatrix / coach is.
Sure. So basically, I use BDSM, the exploration of pain and pleasure in the body, as well as power dynamics, power over, power under, power with, as a pathway to sort of like shake and loose and get into deep transformation. I like to think of myself as Hermes. I travel in the underworld. So there's this concept of like light work and dark work.
Yeah.
Right. So light work, right, is a lot of spiritual teachings is very light work. Where it's just like self-compassion, be okay with yourself, be self-love, love your neighbor. Like there's this beautiful, which in essence is ultimately where we all want to go. And can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, you can.
Great. I'm a big fucking believer that when you are obsessed with light work and you can't play in the dark, what happens is bypassing, and it's also like just not how life or human or the world works. You know, I was just on Lightstone's podcast and we talked about the predator and the prey are actually one being because we are all in divine union. Wow. So why would I ever want to practice just being in the light, whatever that is, when predator and prey, we all work in that system. We live in, so my background's in public health and social work. So I got 2 masters, public health and social work. And I'm in these social services and it's like everything, like we can trick ourselves, especially in Boulder. We live in a bubble where we're all just like one, but we live in very defined hierarchies. And so like, why would we not use those same tools to then like go into the deepest realms of our being to find freedom and liberation?
So when you talk about hierarchies, you're talking about internal hierarchies of like better or worse. Like it's better to be, you know, on top in power than to be below and not in power. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, hierarchies are everywhere.
Right.
So hierarchies are systemic, they are interpersonal, and they are internal for sure. Because I also integrate parts work, internal family systems in this way. So like the part of myself who like is embarrassed that I just want to be taken care of, right? Those like there are everything is a power play, but I would say so. It is a fallacy, I think, that the predator is more powerful than the prey. It is a fallacy that the dominant is more powerful than the submissive. That's wrong because again, predator and prey are one. We are divine union. We are all collective, and so that's my point. Is like so. For example, if I go to you and if we were in a healing container, and I say, get on your knees. Look up into my eyes and surrender. You no longer have to make decisions. I will take it from here. I will be called mistress now. Kiss my feet.
Whoa, that's intense.
Right. It evokes something specific in you.
Yeah.
Now you could push against that. You can melt into it. But the reality is by magnifying these hierarchies in relationship, especially when ultimately it's a healing container, all of a sudden shit is going to shake loose within you that you have not been able to get to in the 10 years of talk therapy that you've done.
Wow. So let's use that example. You tell me to get on my knees, look in your eyes and kiss your toes. So in me, at first, I mean, it's a complex reaction.
Yeah.
I'm like...
Well, that's because you didn't consent to it, first of all.
Yeah. Well, I consent to anything on this podcast, just so you know. You can...
Oh, wow.
All right, yeah, sure. Let it be known.
I'm like looking to the producers like, is he serious?
I guess I don't know how much more intense this is going to be right now, but it's okay. Running with this example, like in me, I felt like, first I was like, wait, what? I was like, I don't know about this. And then I felt like another part of me, because again, I really love parts work as well. Another part of me is like, that sounds like honestly kind of like relaxing.
Really freeing. Fucking nice. Yeah.
What the fuck?
aware.
It's weird. So speak to that, please, if you can.
Well, first of all, just in that I sprung that on you. So of course
Yeah.
there's going to be creatures that are like, am I safe? Did I consent to this? Like, what's going on? Like, do I want this? Do I not? Like,
Mm,
we didn't do any
nope.
negotiations. I didn't, you know what I mean? I was just giving you like a little meta
Yeah.
example,
I'm
right?
down though. Show me what's up.
Yeah. So normally, first with when I work with clients, there's an intake process, and like I don't normally go into dynamic with clients until I have like a beautiful map of the internal landscape.
Yeah.
And that's where parts work and internal family systems come in. So like I am like in deep compassion, I'm bringing in that way, I'm bringing in a more compassionate, loving, fully
Mm,
self-accepting version of myself, right? It's only when we have negotiations, we have clear safety mechanisms in place, we have everything is set up, then I'll bring in one of my creatures. I have multiple DOMs. And then also, I will
Hmm.
say, depending on what the client's working on. So, for example, if I'm working with a people pleaser, I'm not like I'm not going to put them in the submissive. I actually am going to teach them how to be a DOM.
Of course. Right.
Right. So it's all, that's my point, is like it's all about
Interesting.
exploring what is the polarity of the thing in front of me
Right.
in order to find balance, liberation, and divine union.
I love it. This is really interesting. So first, I want to touch on your creatures. So when you say I bring out some of my creatures, what are these like people? Are these parts of you?
Yeah. So internal family systems, we all have different creatures, part work, right? But I have my seat of consciousness, which is what you were talking about before this podcast started, of just like of emptiness, of compassion, and it's much more of
Yeah.
a Buddhist non-attachment. We all have a seat of consciousness, which is just presence
Mhm.
and compassion. And then we have a million different creatures on top of that. We've got protectors who protect us from pain, and we've got exiles who feel the pain,
Right,
these
right,
younger
right.
parts. So the thing is when you've done enough internal family systems and you know these creatures really well, and you unburden them and you heal them, then you get to just play with them. My background's also in theater, so like this idea of embodying aspects of ourselves in order to get us where we need to go, but with intention and clarity, is fucking so fun and joyful and playful. Like I take myself very seriously, and then I don't take myself very seriously.
Okay, now you are talking my language. So what you do, I am seeing so many similarities to what I am doing. Just so
Do
again,
tell.
the emptiness bit. So the emptiness bit for me, this Buddhist concept that there is no objective way that we are, if we're pointing emptiness at the self. The self is constructed, it's created, it's conditioned. So ultimately, it's not inherently there. It's built. So when we recognize that, we can be like, oh, wait, there's no real me here that I have to be authentic to with. I can actually play with trying on different senses of self, trying on different theatrical parts. For me, coming from a lens of depth psychology, I would call them like archetypes. Obviously, we can use just different language for the same thing, but we're trying on different. The way I put it, it's like trying on outfits. And you're like, what feels right now in this moment? And like you get to, if you don't like the outfit, you can put on something new, and that's a different sense of self, right? If we're using the archetypal language, it would be the king, the joker, the normal dude,
the
the
slave,
healer,
the succubus, the vampire,
I fuck
the
with that.
pet, the dog,
Whoa, that's interesting. For me, it's been like vampire, reptilian prince. Those are some of the like again, those are more of the powerful, I guess you would call them.
Of course, you want to play with the power, and I'm here to say you've only got to have the picture if you're not playing with the slave, if you're not playing with the prey, if you're not playing with the peasant.
Yeah, I'm so interested. So just to play devil's advocate, I feel like in our culture, maybe especially in like intimate relationships, a lot of people will find their partner to fulfill that sort of polarity.
Yeah.
So we can seek it externally. My question is for you is, does that tend to work, or do we need to kind of balance that internal system first?
Well, I'm both. Both, because I'm a big fan of the idea that true healing, a lot of true healing comes in relationship. So this idea that we are islands and that we can do all of the work ourselves, like I'm going to go full Tom Hanks style and just talk to a ball for 3 years and I'm going to come out fixed.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the monk vibe. Like, it's just like, congratulations, you've detached yourself, you've disassociated, you've just left the building and gone into different realms. Like, no. I want to heal in relationship.
Yeah.
I want to heal my relationship with the land. I want to heal my relationship with the earth. I want to heal my relationship with you. I want to heal my relationship with masculine and feminine externally while doing all of that internally, which is like the polarity of divine feminine and divine union within ourselves. I want to heal that relationship as well. I want to heal my relationship with the legacy of my father that left in my body, and so on and so forth. Like, it's all the same again, because we're all one. It's all there. But I appreciate, the thing. Should we pause?
We should pause. We'll cut this out probably, but there's do you want to just mark this?
Can you hear that?
I can hear it a little bit in the headphones, but yeah, I can hear it.
All right, yeah, let's just wait.
That's
We'll just cut this out.
I was like, why don't we just pause?
I mean, you can even throw this in there. And just like that, the construction work outside of our studio has ceased. So please continue.
Yeah. I really appreciate what you're bringing when you say, all these archetypes are just costumes. And one of the main audiences that I work with are men who want to explore their feminine. So that could be cross-dressers, that could be gender fluid folks, that could be sissies, femboys, all of these things. And there is one of the things that I've come to really deeply appreciate is there's so much stigma. There's so much shame around a person who was born, assigned male at birth, who wants to explore their feminine if they're not going to go on the trans pipeline. Right? So the trans pipeline is just like, you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, well, if you are a woman, we'll allow you to be a woman. But if you want to be a man one day and then a woman the next day and then a man again, no. Yeah. Because what you're doing is you are making us all aware of how absolutely absurd the gender construct and the gender binary is. So my passion is to explore how to create containers for both men who don't want to explore their feminine, but just men, in order to be in their divine feminine, which is the surrendered, which is the portion of all of us to be received. I'm throwing a lot of concepts at you now. So
absolutely killing it. Keep going, please.
And then also so internally, so I would say like the divine feminine is the part of ourselves that can just be held by the masculine, be held by the structure. So I sometimes correlate divine feminine with. Did your audience, are they going to know divine feminine, divine masculine? Yes. Okay, great. Divine feminine with submission, but that's not always true. But sometimes I accidentally do that. So it's for the masculine to heal by being held by it's for a male body person to be healed by being held by a feminine in the masculine, and also for men who want to explore their feminine externally and be in their divine feminine or be in their nylons or whatever it means to be externally perceived as a woman. I think both of those are so needed for the rebalancing of our deeply fucked up, unbalanced gender power hierarchy situation we got going on, exemplified by our government.
Wow. You said a lot there.
I did. I really did. Let's take a breath together.
No, yeah. I mean, please. So something I found really interesting was that you said that there's this trans pipeline where if men, for instance, want to explore their femininity, then they sort of get lumped into this trans pipeline. Or is that where they just end up? Or
well, so I'm using this. I would say in the cross-dresser in this community, I am an ally, right? And so I'm speaking from using the language that I've heard from my clients, from the communities that I associate with. So I do not want to I do not want to note that like I know everything about these communities.
These are really interesting ideas though.
But like the idea is like once you start exploring their feminine, a lot of people are just like, oh, you're trans.
Yeah, they reduce them.
Well, just because like you can be on one side or the other side of the gender
Right.
binary. But if you want to flow back and forth, wait, this is a totally different thing. And specifically, I think that like people who were born and who are assigned female at birth, my feeling is, I'm going to say a statement that people could totally push back against, and I welcome that. That I think there's a little bit easier time flowing back and forth. Like if they wanted to move into be perceived as masculine and then perceived as feminine, that fluidity might, but for a man, it's like the ultimate sin. And so therefore it's like, I think in more liberal communities, it's just like, oh yeah, you want to explore a woman. Do you just want to be a woman? That's okay. We can understand you then. But for you to embody the power and privilege that the masculine body has, and then to slide down to less privilege that the feminine has, the external perception of femininity, and then wanting to go back to that, you know what I mean? It just like breaks our brains.
Right. And that it breaks our brains bit is what is really interesting for me, coming from this Buddhist lens that really emphasizes emptiness. And again, the emptiness of self. So there is no real you. There's no real me. There's no real anyone listening to this. There's no authentic identity there beyond what we construct. And what's interesting is I've heard certain Buddhist teachers say the primary delusion is
that we are separate.
Well, that's one of them. I'm going to reference.
Secondary
the second primary delusion is what they call reification. So this word means to make something abstract, solid, and concrete, like the ideas and the gender norms in our minds, for instance. We make them concrete and solid. They're just these amorphous concepts floating through like the collective human mind, but yet we solidify them. And what's interesting,
to bring certainty.
So again, why do we need certainty? And where my mind goes again with this contemplative lens is actually the solid sense of self that we've been conditioned into needs it. If we live in a fluid world, then by default, I must also be fluid and undefinable. And to the solid separate ego, that's a death experience, which is why, again, according to certain teachers, we cling to certainty. I'm a man and men do this. That's a woman and they do that. And
but yes. And I would say that our brains are biologically wired for categories, for certainty. So it's a safety mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. It's a survival skill. So it's like how we are evolutionary succeed because we do these things.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like conceptually it was like, that sounds nice. And yet like I'm still a human that still eats flesh.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm still gonna slice the neck of an animal that is again divine union, predator and prey.
Yeah.
So it's like that sounds nice, and yet like we're still like beasts.
Yeah, and that's the thing with emptiness. We're all of it. We're multidimensional. Right. We're human and not only human. We can try on very different, again, just senses of self if we're staying with that lens. But yeah, I think it's interesting that you talk about divine union as in like eating meat too, or eating in general. Because when I've thought about this, it seems like the closest you can get to another being or creation in general, just any other, it seems like really deep, passionate, like sex or taking a life or consuming, and the consumption of not just food, but the consumption of, we could say content, art, material, literature. Like that's a union, right, of other and self, and it influences us, right?
I would say that's the thing, is I think we're always in union. Like I think like that's when we get to open our mind. That's when we can feel it. But I also feel like we are always in union because like my energy, right, is impacting, it has deep impact on you, whether you know it or not. Which is why we can impact each other through Zoom screens, because even the visual of my energy, you know what I mean? So it's like, like what does it mean to be the closest when it's kind of always here, it's always around us? But
Totally.
actually, and this is, again, I've talked about this before, when actually I think polarity, right? Polarity of, like, think of two magnets when they are polarized to be opposites, right? That's when they come together, right? But when they're the same, then they bounce off of each other.
Right.
So polarity, so that's why my work specifically is just like, great, let's create as much polarity as possible, which is predator and prey, or dom sub, or divine masculine, divine feminine. Once we create polarity, then those are the moments. And so it speaks to what you're saying. Those are the moments where we can truly feel the divine union that is already there.
Yeah.
We're just magnifying it so we can feel it more, but it's already there.
Interesting.
But it's hard to feel the felt sensation of divine union, of that we are all souping together when this body of mine truly needs to survive.
Yeah.
And in order to survive, I need to have a clan. And in order for me to have a clan, I need to have that clan resourced and not care about the clan outside of me, which is just human evolution.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Like tribalism.
Yeah. Did you read the book Sapiens?
You know, I listened to like half of it. My dad was like,
It's
you gotta
thick.
listen to this.
It's a thick book, for sure. Yeah. But it's just like learning about where we came from and how we got to where we are. Another favorite book of mine is Sex at Dawn. It's about the psychoevolutionary psychology of our sexuality and monogamy, the exploration of monogamy and polyamory. And when you start to look at these things of how our society is structured, you're like scratching your head like, wait, do I want this? Or did like some man in a robe like 600 years ago decide that I wanted this in order to maintain order, in order to create more safety in a deeply unsafe environment?
Right. And I think what you're pointing to is how deep conditioning goes.
Yeah.
Certain stories that are so deeply interwoven into the culture that we don't even recognize that they're stories. And again, I'm using that word. It's like conceptual frameworks about right, wrong. You kind of point to what I think is the evolutionary biology perspective with Sapiens, as far as like, take care of my clan, you know. And there's a reason that we did that, because the clans that took care of each other the best are the ones that survived. Duh. Like,
yeah.
And so now we're in this really interesting place in just time as human beings, where it's like, you know, you could theoretically, you know, just spend your life playing video games and just hanging out and watching Netflix and really not have much of a tribe and physically survive. But for me, and I think we're seeing this in this mental health crisis, and that's obviously just one portion of the mental health crisis. That's not enough. That's not enough for a good life, at least. That's enough to keep this flesh suit, its heart beating. Yeah. But is that enough?
Yeah.
And for me, what I'm so curious about is understanding the mechanisms that lead to the optimal experience here. And if we can understand those mechanisms, where's the ceiling for how beautiful we can make this place from the inside out? How beautiful can the architecture in our minds and in our hearts, as well as the way that we relate to others, like what's the limit for how beautiful we can make this place when we do see the mechanisms for what leads to when I say good life, I mean rich, full, meaningful, something that you look back on and you're happy you were here the whole time, and you're not afraid to leave this place when you die. I think that's my question. And I think what you're pointing to is harmony, balance, internally, externally. And it's interesting, the Buddhist lens says internal and external are sort of it can be perceived as a false duality. Just awareness. I'm awareness of the emotions in my body, just like I'm aware of you and these lights shining on my face. And it's like same awareness.
I would say, like, you're asking like how beautiful, like what do we need to make this life beautiful? And actually I think a key piece is to be with pain.
Yes.
Is to like it. So that's my point. So part of my work is also exploring pain and pleasure in the body. Because what is it like when I always think about, like they tell you if you fall off of a cliff, the best thing you can do is go limp. You surrender
Yeah.
to the cliff. You surrender, because then if you brace, if you're like, no, you're going to break every single bone in your body. You might, depending how the
Wow.
cliff is, whatever. But the idea is like when you release and you let the impact like shake you and move through you, you are much more pliable, and therefore you're going to be able to ride the impact
Right.
so much better. Health outcomes so much better than if you're bracing. The problem is that we, I think, I don't like to say we as a culture, because I'm not every fucking person and I'm
Right.
not every fucking culture. But the thing is like, I think we are very comfortable. We have done such a great job of being very comfortable, especially, again, we are in Boulder, Colorado, and we live in this beautiful bubble where like no communities, like we're all trying to heal ourselves, but then none of us look outside of our communities to under-resourced communities. We're like, we are one as long as you're white and well-privileged and can come to a fancy recording studio. And yet like you don't look to like the Black communities that are like are struggling with maternal health issues, or the immigrant communities who are struggling or in deep terror and survival mechanisms these days. Like Boulder has quite the hypocritical, delicious, experimental human experience. But the thing is that like when we are able to be with pain, and it takes skill to be able to do this. We don't teach children how to do this. We teach them like run from pain. You don't want these experiences. Yes. But when we were able to open up our soul and be like, eat me. I'm ready to be eaten. I am like, you want to devour me? Let's fucking go. Like I am loose. Let's go. And this is what the experience of surrender does for you. This is a gift that I give to my clients when this is the path that they need to take. I will be the priestess. I will be the vampire. I will be the succubus. I will be the masculine. And your job is to melt and feel everything that is flowing through your body. And maybe I'll go into humiliation and call you a piece of shit or whatever, based on what we find, based on what you need. But I know the specific acupuncture points to like make your entire internal family system erupt. Wow. Based on what we find. And with that eruption, then I'm going to hold you in my palm, and you are going to release all of the bones in your body so that that impact flows through you, and not only flows through you, but also potentially arouses the fuck out of you.
When you say arouses, you mean sexually? Sexually,
potentially, or not, or like arousal is, I think of eros, right?
Yeah.
It's the Greek god, which comes from life force. Yep. So whether it goes down into the erotic of the genitalia, or it's just like, you know what it feels like to be aroused in your whole being, and you're like, am I turned on? Am I not turned on? Do I want to have sex? Do I not want to have sex? I don't know. It's all the same. It doesn't actually matter, which is why I don't do sex work. I don't do genital or anal touch in my sessions, and yet these sessions can be some of the most powerfully erotic, arousing sessions. Because if you were called a piece of shit your entire life by your mom or whatever, or like deeply humiliated, and you're like, I do not want to be called that, but then I say it to you in the right way, the right acupuncture point with the right safety nets, humiliation can have the same impact on our body that moment of like the first time you saw porn or something, where it just like opens up your whole being and you're like, whoa.
You're amazing. I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. Yeah. Shout out Light for setting up this conversation. This is so
it's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot here.
You're speaking to something that is also my bread and butter, which, I mean, generally, not the dominatrix stuff as much, but I'm really curious, actually.
I guarantee you. This is what I said to I was like to the audience, this man is going to die to surrender to me by the end of this call.
You said that to Light?
No, I said that to the audience on the thing. I was like, anyone who's watching this, just be prepared. This man is going to want to surrender to me by the end. Because he was like, I don't want to surrender. I don't never, blah, blah, blah.
For context, Light is like a massive bodybuilder, like, 6'2", like 280, absolutely yoked motherfucker with like head tats, just, yadded everywhere. So you can imagine. If you want to see it, it's on the the Stone Protocol, right? That's the name of this podcast. But yeah. So
yeah, so that's my point, is just
Yeah.
like, of course you want to surrender. Everyone should want to surrender because it is a spiritual experience we all need.
And I want to touch on that because for me, pain, I love this equation. I'm just going to plant this seed here. So a certain teacher says suffering is equivalent to pain multiplied by our resistance to that pain.
Right.
So when you surrender the resistance,
Correct.
the suffering dramatically drops.
Yeah.
And for me in my life, it's felt like pressure builds.
Mm-hmm.
More things I can't accept. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not who I want to be. It hurts. And then life breaks me the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the salvation. That is the phoenix from the ashes.
Yeah.
When I can just sob and break. For me, it's usually by myself in the mountains. I have like quite a relationship with the natural world. I always have, but especially since I moved to Colorado. So being able to be out there, it's interesting. That's where I think I feel the safest, to be able to cry, to be able to be with those more tender, we could call it feminine parts of my being, where I can just allow myself to break and say, fuck all this. Like, why is it, whatever, not working out the way I want? Why am I not the way I want? Why don't people like me, appreciate me, value me, partner wise? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being able to break into that is so it's salvation. And it makes me think. I broke up with my most recent ex in May. May. And I like couldn't cry. I felt this like frog in my throat for months, maybe like 8 months. And then it's like the mountains were open. It was like June. I was like, all right, I'm just getting lost out there. So I was out there and I did kind of a psycho run. So I think I walked and ran like 25 miles. But there was this point where I was just thinking about my ex, and finally it felt in my whole being like, oh, now's the time to let this out. And it was such a sick backdrop, just like in this crazy valley, like thunder booming in the distance. And I just like broke down. I found a log. I was like, this is the log. And I just started sobbing, just saying, I'm sorry. Like, I wish it could have been different. And like the tears, the snot, the spit coming out of my mouth is like the emotion was being drained out of my face. And that was that surrender where it was like heartbreaking, you know. It's like you're feeling all of it, and it hurts, but also it feels really right. I don't know how else to describe it. It still hurts. And in this hedonistic culture, maybe people can see that as wrong and keep running from that, but it hurts and it also feels right. It's like it gives me the metaphor, the image of the crucifixion. Painful but right. Interesting.
And I would say that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. And I would say also, what would it be like for you to stay in connection with another human being and also be in that surrender? Yeah. Because when I hear the first thing I say is like, the first thing I hear is like, I can normally do that when I'm alone with the earth. And I'm all about the earth can hold all of us. Like the earth can hold anything. It can hold all of my pain. It can, and yet in relationship is actually the most vulnerable thing.
It's terrifying.
Exactly. And so what I do with clients is repattern that. This is what it looks like to surrender in a safe space where I am the earth. I am channeling the earth. That's because one of the things that's really important also that my clients know right off the bat, that it's not about me. Some of my clients are like, what if I fall in love with you? And then it's going to get weird. And I was just like, there is no way, shape, or form I will ever let that happen, because that would give you the illusion that I'm the one you're surrendering to.
Whoa.
I am not the one that you're surrendering to.
Who is the one?
I think you know. I am always this is a conversation between you and spirit. I am just channeling. I think of myself as plumbing. Shit goes in, shit goes out. Like I'm just plumbing when I'm in my best self. And if I ever get in my own way, then everything starts to not make sense. So when people start to bring their adoration for me, I'm just like, whoop. Yeah. Right? Or because also spirit is self. Yeah. So, or I'm a reflection. This is why it's like, tell me what your mom told you when you were 3-year-old, and I'm going to reflect it back at you. Right? So it's externalizing. Or tell me all of the worst things you say to yourself, and I'm gonna say it back to you. And it's going to be like, it's going to be a mind fuck, but I'm holding you and I'm not going to let you leave, and I'm not going to let you disassociate. I'm not going to and I'm going to help you unbrace. I'm going to help you release your shoulders. I'm going to help you open your heart. I'm going to help you open your jaw so that this can once again flow through you, so that you stop this bullshit habit of bracing away from the pain, when really there's so much pleasure on the other side, and there's so much pleasure through it. We just have to condition ourselves. And spirit is the point of all of it.
Yeah. And I love what you keep saying. We're going to have to do another episode, because you're a interesting creature, at least the creature that I've seen thus far.
Would be, it's just like, what is this? What is she?
Yeah. And like you said, we are all vessels when we can get out of the way. Yeah. When we can stop contracting.
That's what my tattoo says. It says, get out of your own way.
Exactly.
In my own handwriting.
Exactly. So getting out of our own way, we could also phrase it like when the ego gets out of the way of what we all really are, expressions of spirit, unique expressions of one. This is throughout different spiritual traditions. This is known. And so can we get out of the way for you to be that mirror? And the integration of pain and pleasure, light and dark. This is a lot of the work that I'm doing too. And I won't speak too much about specifics that I'm working on, but I'm curious, you must be familiar with tantric practice, not just like neo-tantra and sexuality, but
I've read a few Osho books.
Yeah. Okay. So the integration of pain and pleasure, where it seems like when we can let down the guard to the pain, again, it opens up to pleasure in a weird kind of way. And going with that equation that I spoke to before, which is suffering is equivalent to pain multiplied by resistance. This blows my mind. And I've had a couple experiences like this myself, specifically in meditation retreats. So just sitting for 7-8 hours a day, the body is in pain. It hurts like hell. Your knees, your back, your neck. It's and sitting in that place, there's a recognition. This is what's taught by teachers like specifically Shinzen Young, who has books on chronic pain and how to work with it. That pain does not exist separate from my relationship to that pain.
Right, correct. So, it's just a sensation.
Exactly. It's raw sensation. And my relationship of I don't like, get it away, or ooh, give me more, is constructing what we experience and what we call pain versus pleasure. So when you can actually understand that and how profound it really is, like even like apocalyptic scary ideas, the end of the world, when you can have the right relationship to it, I could maybe simplify it to like openness, surrender, really opening and not resisting that pain. It is experienced as pleasure. And in my mind, that is profoundly deep, that we are co-creating at that level, where we are constructing pain unconsciously. Because I would say, again, from the meditative lens, the human mind is moving so damn quickly. It's just this torrent of reactivity. And so we don't even see that we're, again, constructing pain, for instance, emotional, physical, psychological, spiritual, through an improper, or rather unskillful relationship to that raw sensation. And I think what you're speaking to is profound. And even when I see in you have those snaps where the dom comes out, I'm like, oh shit. And I'm not gonna lie, it feels
that's what I was with light for 2 hours.
I fuck with it, and like that's the thing, like I fuck with it, and it feels, I'm like at least intrigued. I'm like, when you say aroused, I know what that means. There's like this curiosity, there's eros, there's a desire to like get deeper connected with, like to explore, what is this? And I'm like, what? And I am so curious, like what is that just in me personally? And obviously when we can extrapolate my experience of self as conditioned largely from the collective, like what's in that collective human mind, masculine mind, that is again rooted in what we could call resistance to something.
Well, I think I think there has been an over prioritization and an overvaluing of the masculine, the divine masculine in neo-tantric terms, right? Of the structure, of the logic, of the doing, rather than the being. And so the feminine, which is why we have terrible maternal health outcomes, we have terrible maternal health policies, because like the being, the deep feminine that it takes to birth a child. So my background's in maternal health, if you can understand. But the deep being that it takes, the creation, because that's what the divine feminine is. But it also, the divine feminine wants to be held. It wants to receive. And the thing is that, like, my guess is the reason why you're like, whoa, what is that? It's because there's a divine feminine in you who's just like, I've not, wait, what can I, wait, what's that? I'm not allowed that, but could I have, what is, it's like awoken in you. And that's the thing, is like, this is a thing that, so my background is in maternal health. I worked in rape crisis counseling centers. I worked in abortion clinics. I'm a trained doula. My background is being with feminine rage and feminine pain. That's what I did for 12 more years. And it came from my own. I had an eating disorder. I was an actress when I first started out. And then realizing that my body was the center of creation, the center of what makes this, that my body can create to creation through birth and abortion and all of those things, I was able to heal my eating disorder. And so I was like, this is the thing. I want to be a doula to every woman in every situation. Let's fucking go. So I spent 10 years doing that. And that opened me up into my anti-racism work and all these other things. And at the end of the day, so the Me Too movement came out when I was working at a rape crisis counseling center. And I was just like, wait a minute. So the man who's the perpetrator is now like the devil incarnate, and like the woman, and all priorities are going to the woman, because it's normally, this is in a, that dynamic of abuse, which is the most common, the woman. And then we're just like completely forgetting about the man, and like completely like being like, we need to cancel him. He needs to not exist, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, aren't we missing the root of the problem? Like, if we actually want to heal this abuse that is perpetuated through centuries and generations, don't we actually have to work with the men? Isn't that where everything is at? Hello? Like, don't you think then the suffering of man is where, like you take out the thorn, all of a sudden the shit stops hurting. You know what I mean? Right. So that is how I started my practice, was just like, I want to fuck with men, man. Yeah. Like, I want to go into the pain of men. That's, and specifically helping men rebalance their masculine by being with their feminine. Like, yes, I do think like there are neo-tantric practices like John Wineland, or like, masculine men's group, and like learning to be in the masculine with integrity. But if you cannot also be in your feminine, if you cannot cry, if you cannot allow yourself to be held, shit's gonna get gnarly. This is just how life is, because you're not just the masculine.
And as the masculine, like allowing, again, like I said, ourselves to break, to surrender to something. And for me, even the idea of surrendering with someone around, it like,
Ooh,
like
yeah.
my hairs go up.
What's happening up for you?
I don't trust that. I don't trust that. And it's, and again, I know that that's my own wounding.
Of course. We all have that wounding. So many of us.
Yeah. And I know that healing that would be in relationship. It's hard to even think about, and it's cool that you exist to point this out, and to sort of poke what needs to be poked. And I mean, I'm personally so curious, and I want to just say, like, I think last week I did a podcast, is interesting timing, with a therapist who works specifically with sex offenders. Yeah. And the way she put it was that these are the people in the gutter, the trenches of the trenches, societally speaking, like registered sex offenders. Sure. And yet, again, so many people would demonize her, even at Naropa, the school that many people here in Boulder get therapeutic graduate degrees.
They would demonize her, or they demonize community?
Both. Okay. They demonize community, and they demonize her to be like, oh, you're like a sexual criminal lover, which is disgusting. And you know what I mean? Because these people are human beings with different conditions, different traumas that need help.
And I would say they're not sex offenders. They're people who've made mistakes.
Exactly. That's what she says too. She's like, the people who've done sexual offenses or deviance or something like that. She worded it differently. Yeah. But it's so interesting. Like, we don't have a culture where there's this ability to give people second chances sometimes, at least when it comes to like sexual crimes. You know what I mean? And what is spawning those sexual crimes, right?
Well, so I have a podcast, Soul King Therapy. Check it out, friends.
Mm.
On Soul King Therapy, my last episode or 2 episodes ago, I had a man who's a teacher in Australia, and he was accused of pedophilia by a student of his, or not even of his, in the school. It ended up being false, but what that did to his life, just even being accused of it, and the reality is that he is actually quite kinky, and he has all of these because he had, childhood sexual trauma. He was abused as a child as well, so like he is coped in all these different ways. I mean, we haven't even talked about how kink moves through the body and kink's relationship to trauma, and kink's, it's amazing. It's my favorite thing in the world to talk about. But like, just being called a pedophile completely disrupted his life. One time, completely disrupted his life for a whole year or more.
At least.
And that's the thing, is just like, what if, I understand, it's like, I understand why we have such a reaction to the word pedophile or the idea of taking advantage of children. Obviously, it's the same reaction of why none of us want to throw up. It's an evolutionary mechanism to say, like, don't eat that again. When we throw up, it's the most ingrained our body will get to not do a thing again. If you throw up, or if you get nauseous around something,
makes sense.
Don't eat those berries. My body's going to train me not to eat the berries. So it's the same thing with like pedophilia. Our bodies are just like, no. Evolutionary, like, that's not good. It's the same thing as why we don't eat each other, right? It's because evolutionary, there's too many parasites that could fuck us up. So I understand. And at the same time, it's like, people who are pedophile, or people who are attracted, adults who are attracted to children, maybe we should actually just understand what's going on.
Right.
Maybe we should have curiosity. Maybe we should understand, like, what mechanisms can we support them with so that this doesn't happen. Like, if we bring everything to the surface and are just with the pain of it all, like, we can actually heal. That's the same thing with like racism. I'm just going through a lot of different metaphors here, but it's the same thing. The United States has never healed from its relationship with slavery.
Yeah.
We've never acknowledged it. We've never truly done reparations. We've never done healing with it, which is why it is gnarly as fuck now, because we've built all of these bracing structures on top of it to try to get away from the deep pain that we all, even the white people back then, experienced because of that schism with divine union.
Can you talk about that schism? You say so many beautiful things. I'm like, I don't know which thread to follow right
I'm
now.
also
Scrambled.
I'm also going at the speed of lightning here.
No, you're killing it though. I mean, I do want to touch on kink, especially because that's your favorite thing to talk about, and I'm so curious about that. Because I would say kink is one of those things that, for me, like, sexually speaking, it's never been super alive for me, to be honest.
Well, what do you think of as kink? Because I bet whatever is alive for you, what
pops in my mind when people say kink, I think chains, I think BDSM type shit. But that's, off the bat. What I know kink to be, I associate it with anything taboo, anything that's a no. So I mean, I'm sure kink could be, I'm guessing for you, like a guy like me getting into that more submissive role, because that is, at least in my mind, and maybe culturally as well, tabooed.
Right. So my favorite definition of kink is anything that somebody told you should not like. So kink is, the sex that I would say is not kinky is 2 white, thin people having sex, missionary, in a bed, who are doing it for procreation in a house, not outside. There's no exchange of money. They're also English speakers, by the way. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what would be non-kinky sex.
Right.
So if you've ever done it doggy style, if you've ever done it in the kitchen, if you've ever thought about having sex outside, like, that's my point, is we are all kinky. We are all messy. We are all in pain. We are all like let's stop pretending there is an other when there's not. There's just no other. And so for kink, like, why I love it is because it's the theatrical exploration of these polarized parts of ourselves.
And
that's what I think of it as.
And I see like a relationship between kink, again, doing what we're not supposed to do, and actually something related to pain, and what I see as the purification of that pain.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's something in there. It's like that pain of like contraction.
Pain. That's exactly what it is.
Right. And it's like you poke that pain in the right spot, that thing I'm not supposed to do. Ooh. And for me, not just sexually, but in life, when you do that thing you're not supposed to do, for me, what comes to mind. I graduated undergrad and I was like depressed, confused, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I just saved up literally like a little bit of money and went to Asia and like biked across Vietnam, spent COVID at an ashram in India. My dad's like, "What are you doing? You just got your degree." And I'm like, again, there is such a release of like, fuck that. I'm going to go just not do what everyone says. And I'm going to just travel because I've no choice really. I mean, at that point in my life, but it was like doing that thing you're not supposed to do. There's the way I kind of see it, like a release of life force, because we could say there's a contraction there. There's some sort of fear. And again, certain Buddhist teachers say fear is the primordial contractive force, fear in some flavor. So we contract when I'm not supposed to do something. And then when we lean into that thing, there's that release of that contracted, you could call it chi, life force.
I think about it as sometimes of like when your shoulders are really tight and the only way that you can get them to release is just to go like this. And then all of a sudden you go like that and you're like, oh, they feel so much better. Yeah. It's to go into the contraction, to go into the pain. Yeah. And so that's the thing. And so the exploration of pain and pleasure in the body is so interesting. Because if I go, this is my favorite. I'm going to see if, okay, you guys can see this. My favorite exploration of this is if I go like this, what do you think is going to happen to my skin? Is this too loud?
No, it's good. Okay. It's going to get red.
Okay. What do you think is happening when it's getting red?
It's the blood's going to the surface.
You did it right. So I don't know if you see this, but it's red right here. So now blood's at the surface of my skin. Yes, it was like a little stingy. I'm going to take my nails and I'm going to go like this. And what do you think is going to happen?
It's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to feel good.
It's heightened sensation.
Huh.
Right. It's heightened sensation. All of a sudden, with the heightened sensation, especially if I go in soft with my nails, it feels so good. It feels better here than it feels here. Huh. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So with pain, again, it's the heightened experience. We can go deeper into the pleasure. Wow. So if you ever talk to like a masochist, a true masochist, I'm not a true masochist, but I'm close to a more sadist than a masochist, hence the work. But a true masochist is like the realms of like extreme euphoria they can go into because of their like invitation in of pain. I once was at a Dom conference once. Yes, there are Dom conferences. I'll probably be speaking at one in May. But and I met this guy who had severe child abuse. He was raised by two very Christian people, missionaries, and they just beat the shit out of him all the time. And they did it as an act of quote unquote love or as an act of like, Jesus, this is where you make you better for Jesus. Some bullshit. Right. Not classic, but his story. So he realized that like in his adulthood, what he wanted to do was just be beaten. Like it was the form that he once told me, so he was just like beat the shit out of me. It was the first time that I had done that. I like with like no like as hard as I fucking can because I normally don't go to those realms.
Did you like sign a waiver for that or?
Yeah, you'd think, but no. We did a lot of consent talks. We did a lot, but I beat the shit out of. But at first I was like, I really need to understand this because especially with your background and you know my therapist's mind was like, I need to get more of a layout. Like, what are we doing here? And he was like, look, pleasure only gets you so far. In pain, you can be a diver in the ocean. There are realms and experiences and visions and like it's an ocean. Pain, you get just like or pleasure, you can get like a pop. Boof, you're done. And like maybe you can go into a little bit more, but pain, there's just so much more. And it's the first time I was like, oh shit. Like I don't think I have allowed myself to go into those areas because he knew he wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to break bones or anything like no, like real damage, but like bruises, they're going to heal, you know what I mean? Fight, be uncomfortable. But it really opened my eyes up to a whole different world. And anyone who's deep in the kink and BDSM scene, specifically around sadism and masochism, if they hear this, they're going to be like, oh, yep. Yep. When most of us don't even allow ourselves to even conceptualize the ideas.
Well, it's interesting, again, from the evolutionary biology perspective, there's a reason, I guess, we habitually turn from pain, right? It's like there's a message there. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
you do this too much, it's gonna maybe kill you or fuck you
Right.
up permanently.
Of course, we survival.
So it's like almost we're going against our evolutionary biology. And again, from that contemplative lens, we're tapping into a resource here that is actually pain.
And I would actually say, if you think about it, like our current society, we've done such a great job to take us away from physical pain and also to separate ourselves from death.
Yeah.
We do not have, in the Western culture, we do not have relationships with death.
Ugh.
Back in the day, you'd see your mom die, you'd see your sisters and brothers die. There would be just death.
I could talk about this forever.
Right. And so we've also been like, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. So if you think about previous, iterations of humankind, there was just significant more access to physical pain. We've done such a great job of not having that. But now and again, I'm saying like big sweeping statements. So if you want to come for me, please, because I totally deserve to be knocked down on some of this because I'm just generalizing all over the place. But like we don't have so now, for example, when I go outside and I don't have a parka on and it's like 30 degrees outside, I'm just like, it's all I can think about. I'm so cold. I'm so cold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I get grumpy and I'm just bracing so much.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's just like, fuck you, dude. Like, breathe through it.
Literally.
And desensitize your body in order to become more sensitive.
It's interesting. I see things that seem to be happening at the collective, at least, here in this hub in Boulder. I mean around the country, who knows?
A hub.
But it is a hub.
No, I don't. I'm going to just nix that right now. Boulderites always try to say this is just like, the collective conscious is growing so much and the rest of the world is healing. I have to believe when I masturbate in a temple with other people who are sacred sexuality practitioners, we're healing the world. Fuck you. Fuck you. Why don't you go volunteer?
Yo, literally though, it's this. So I mean, you say so much, I can't follow one thread, but it's like this individual healing, this paradigm of individual healing, which in my mind is actually infinite. Is there a goal? Is there an end point of this healing journey? Literally, what does that look like until you come to the point where like, I'm actually good, and we can step into something more of service to something beyond ourselves. That corresponds to the Bodhisattva ideal in Mahayana Buddhism, which is actually a deeper freedom arises when I'm in service than when I'm just all about me, my liberation, my freedom, my spiritual ascension.
Well, it has to be a balance because I, again, come in the social services world where there was no internal healing and it was all external healing. And what you get then is a lot of people in pain who are martyrs. Like social workers. I worked at a HIV social services, right? And so all the people around me were these fucking badass trans folks and like queer folks who were just like, let's be with, I want to help the community. And meanwhile, they're underpaid, they're under-resourced, they're stressed out, and they have no time to be or nourish their own families while they're like, they don't get good health care, like all of this nonsense. And so there's not the internal healing ability, capacity, while also healing external. They actually have to be step in step. Yeah. And so do the internal work, you get places like Boulder who do not care about the communities. Boulder, I love you, but get your shit together. Who do not care about the communities outside of themselves. Yeah. And I'm saying this with vitriol because I live here and I have, I do stuff, but I also feel guilty because I used to be an activist. It used to be all I did. But then I realized like I have to do the internal too. But step by step together.
It seems like it's not necessarily just a Boulder thing. It's like it's a human thing. When I say human, it's like a limited human thing. We think it's all about me and my, again, like we talked about, my close tribe. And you see in Aspen, like look at the difference between the affluence in Aspen and then right down the valley in Basalt and Glenwood. You know what I mean? Like and I don't think it's just a Colorado thing either. There's something deep in the human psyche.
But there's something specifically narcissistic about Boulder where it's like we're all fucking healers and also like it's not cheap to work with me. So I get it. Like my services are not, but so like, it's like, this is my own struggle of like accessibility. And then I was like, okay, well, like I'll make this membership for like $10, like whatever. But then truly like I'm passionate about philanthropy. I'm passionate about restorative justice. I'm passionate about prison reform. But it's like, I also am always like, I could do more.
And so there's also something so beautiful here, and I think very deep about this notion of paradox, where it seems like getting very close to deep truths they seem inherently paradoxical.
I
Always.
love
It's like a joke. It's like it's I'm just
so
gonna plant
good.
that seed, and I know we don't have too much time left.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this has been one of my favorite conversations ever.
Hey, high
so
five.
yeah, thank you for coming on. This is awesome.
This is fun.
But something that I've always resonated with, or just seen, is like, again, how comfortable we get in life.
Yeah.
And then we have like an interesting development recently, which is like people double screening. We have TV going, and I have something on my phone.
Literally double screening.
It's like just all these ways to comfort the nervous system.
Yeah.
Because even when I'm just chilling in a house, like around other human beings, I have food, like it's warm. That's not enough comfort. Why? Because there's never enough comfort. It's something we adapt to. So this is where, for me, such a healing came from pushing my body. First it was physically, then like mentally with things like meditation or just getting out of my comfort zone, trying on new masks, new archetypes, all of those things. For me, it seemed like getting out of the comfort zone was, I mean, obviously therapy. Because then, like, like camping is such a perfect example. If you spend 3 days in the woods living out of a backpack or a tent or whatever, you come back and you're like, wow, I got food in the fridge. Wait, I can just cook burgers when I want. And wait, it's like warm in here? That's crazy.
We need the polarity in order to come back into gratitude and like acceptance. And I would also, just one caveat, I know we got to end soon, is that like when people are in a house and they got food and they're doing double screaming, it's not because they're comfortable. It's actually because they're uncomfortable.
Yes. Oh my God. We could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
I would love to have you on. I know you have to go in a minute, so we'll end it for now. But Emily, where can people find you and learn more about your brilliant
What
work?
a great question. I didn't see that coming at all. Wow, what a surprise. Anyway, so you can find me at www.soulkink.com. That's soul, like internal thing, the soul, the alma, and kink, like, kink.com. And then on Instagram, you can find me on SoulKink00. Why 00? Because we are all nothing. SoulKink00 is Instagram, and then YouTube, SoulKink, and then TikTok, SoulKink00. And then if you really want to deep dive into my work, you go to Soul Kink Therapy Podcast on Spotify or any podcasting platform near you.
Brilliant. All right, Emily, thank you so much for coming on. Again, this is one of my favorite conversations.
How wonderful.
I'm excited to have you on sometime soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for watching.